My name is Dave Wilkinson, and we're in the offices of the Iowa State Education Association in Des Moines, Iowa. As part of my job, I convene this group called the Iowa Partners in Learning. And our interest is learning about public deliberation and supporting that in the state of Iowa the best we can.
I'm Virginia Varce, and I've been a member of Partners in Learning almost since the beginning, I think.
Well, my name is Gerald Ott, and many years ago I worked for the Iowa State Education Association. I preceded Dave in his role, and one of my assignments at the time was to manage a nonprofit corporation called the New Iowa Schools Development Corporation. And one of our missions was to help schools reconnect with their community, or as we learned eventually, communities to reconnect with their schools.
The planning process, since it was a school district event, so it was school district leaders who were involved, whether administrators or teacher leaders or community leaders, school board members. And the biggest thing that is in my mind is every time we'd meet to plan, there was a different person who was worried that when we brought people together, they would tell us things to do that we didn't want to do. And so in March it would be one person who raised that issue, and in April it would be another person who raised the issue. But that fear of what are they going to tell us? And are they going to force our hands to do some things that we don't think are the right things to do? And a very honest kind of struggle with that. And so as we went on a little later, we expanded our committee and brought in people from the faith community, from the business community, from the labor community, maybe someone else as part of the group. And from that point on, we seemed to move a little better. But when it was just the folks that was inside the education community, it was just real easy for those fear things to kind of paralyze us. And so that was the biggest struggle all the way through. Probably the most moving piece is when a couple years ago we held a forum on racial and ethnic tensions. And in a group it was just a moving experience in terms of you hear people tell their stories and to listen to each other.
My first thought when you ask that question is the people who have caught on to the process and with whom we've maintained some at least friend connections and have a feeling that if we really come up with something, they would be there to come back in. So I think because these are really fine and wonderful people and who see the possibility of drawing people together to talk. I get a thrill out of moderating the small groups. And as I think about the responses of people at the healthcare forums that we had, and at the democracy forums that we've had recently, and the one that you were talking about, racial tension, people come away having had a different experience. I think one of the real problems that we have in our world today is what I call either-or thinking. So, if right, wrong, make a choice, that's it. And what we try to do is to say, here are three approaches that could be, or four, that could be used to solve this problem. Let's look at each one and see where the advantages and disadvantages might be. And out of this, perhaps we will come up with something that might actually work and be somewhat satisfactory for everyone. And as people experience this, they have a real positive, hopeful response, I would say. And that is really an exciting thing to be a part of. Now, how you take that next step is where we're struggling. We're really struggling because we gather a group and then they never see one another again.
What I've become convinced about is that in our society we need to work at making it happen. And I have a stronger feeling, much stronger feeling about that today. And so this sort of work, I can help take care of that belief that I have, that I can begin to do something about it, that I can contribute. So in my sense, the place of leverage can be maybe that's a little easier if we can get the institution, if we can get the school district, the school, the county, or whatever it is, to be better listeners and to intentionally engage their citizens. Rather than the most common way that they have of communicating is things they will call community conversations, but where there's no listening by the organization. And usually it's, we're going to tell you about what can happen, and then you can tell us what you like about it, and you got 5 minutes to do it. And then the next person have 5 minutes, and no sort of thing to build a discussion, a dialogue, anything like that. So whatever we can do to contribute to that engagement, I think will be helpful for our local communities and our society.
What I have seen happen more times than any as a result of a forum is that people know more about who they are, about the scope of the issue, about how to relate to one another, about what the concept of learning actually means as a result of having experienced a forum, even though they may not revisit the issue in a barn building objective way of bringing construction to the problem. But I believe that their mode of being as an individual is altered by the adult learning experience of participating in a forum.
I think that we've got the right title for our organization, Iowa Partners in Learning, because I think that the essence of any sort of change is learning. I think recognizing the power of learning in our lives and making that more intentional, I think can be a good piece. And then along with that is the power of relationships. It's things happen through people, and that the relationships that you have can make it a lot easier, and you can draw upon folks and bring folks together for collective action that way. There are two pieces of research the National Issues Forum Institute has done about public deliberation, and they have found that people engaging in forums using the three or four choice process leave with two things. They better understand the complexity of the issue. What seemed to them as simple is now simple plus, and they also gain an appreciation of the validity of someone else's viewpoints. They may not change their mind, but they can better understand why Jerry might think what he thinks. And that it seems to me those are two healthy things for a democracy, and that the more citizens we would understand complexity of problems and appreciate why other people see things, it seems we're a better off society.